Wine Library TV, a.k.a. WLTV, and this is BBQ Central.
Let's go!
We'll do it live. Okay. Well, do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
So to get that perfect barbecue, you use wood. Are you sure it's safe? Whatever. We put the lighter fluid on, strike the match, and... Oh! Should we call the fire department? That might be a good idea.
And welcome to the Really Big Barbecue Central Show. This is a show that talks about all things important in the world of barbecue and grilling, originating from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city of Cleveland, Ohio, the barbecue capital of the North Coast. I am your program host, Greg Rempe. Happy to have you aboard here on your Tuesday night's fun and live fire fun and frivolity show. If you want to jump in on the show tonight through a phone call or email, here's how you do it.
You can get in touch with the show by calling 216-220-0966. Email Greg at the bbqcentralshow.com. On the Twitter and Instagrams at BBQ Central Show.
Everything else you want to find out about the show can be found at the main website, thebbqcentralshow.com. And here's what's happening coming up in about 12 minutes from now. It's the third Tuesday of the month, and you know what that means. A visit from the creator of BBQBible.com, host of Project Fire, Project Smoke, Barbecue University, Primal Grill. The list goes on. Stephen Reichlin joins us for the first time in 2021. We will take a look back at 2020 and see what he thought from a trends perspective hit the mark or maybe came out of nowhere to take over the live fire scene in 2020. As we've said many times over the last 10 and 11 months, a year which ended up being like no other, and 2021 starting out much the same. And we'll see if there was anything that snuck out of the realm of normalcy and really hit the trend, considering a lot of people were staying home and doing a lot of cooking, not going out and doing a lot of eating out, stuff like that. And then we will turn our attention to 2021, and Stephen is always putting out the current beginning of the year list predictions of trends and things that he thinks is going to be things that he think will be popular over the course of this year, things to look out for, prognostication, stuff like that. So Stephen Reichlin joining us 14 past, and we'll move 35 past. We broached the subject last week with Meathead, with a company and a product called Spark Grill. His grill tester, Max Good, currently has one in his hands and is going through the testing process. And probably a month ago, I reached out after I first saw this thing on Instagram through some kind of a Insta ad or whatever you call it, and it caught my attention. I said, man, oh man, look at this thing. Spark Grill, it looks pretty cool. There's a thermostatic control on it. It's got this really unique-looking charcoal brick. I'm going to reach out, see if they want to come on the show. You never know how that's going to work out. So I threw out a note to Spark Grill team, and they said, you know what? Our CEO and founder, Ben West, would love to come on the show, and he's going to be on at 9:35. I was just corresponding with Barbecue Central Show guest Hall of Fame inaugural class inductee, Chad Ward of Traeger Grill fame, and of course Whiskey Bent Barbecue, who was tuning in to check out that conversation. And as he had put it, conceptually, a charcoal-fired cooker that would give you the same fit and feel, again, conceptually, of a pellet cooker, except you're doing it with charcoal. So we'll talk to Ben West, the CEO and founder of Spark Grill, get a little bit of his background, and then, of course, where Spark Grill came from, how they've been manufacturing, and what this rollout is going to look like for them. And I could make arguments on both sides that this is probably the best and worst time that they could be launching something like this. Best because people are still home. A lot of people are still cooking at home, not getting out, doing the normal routine. Bad because a lot of industries within this niche are experiencing record sales. However, when you're in a manufacturing standpoint, what does that mean? You need parts. You need availability. And as you start looking to suppliers, those lead times start building out, and all of a sudden you have a potential gaggle of orders you have no way of actually manufacturing to get these out to complete the sale. So we'll see where Ben is at with that. Then we'll move to the second hour, and a newest sponsor of the show, Ed Riley's sales and marketing, B&B Charcoal Sales and Marketing Manager. Ed Riley will rejoin the show. Last time he was on, at the beginning of December, we talked about the B&B Charcoal history. As you would recall, they've been around since the early to mid-'60s, continuously owned, family-operated. We talked about lump charcoal. We talked about briquette charcoal. We mentioned a little bit about the char logs, which I'm a big fan of. But they're not just into the charcoal. So if you have a pellet cooker, you're in luck tonight. We're going to be talking about the B&B brand of pellets and how they compare contrast to what's else. English is at a premium tonight, folks, for me. How it compares to what else is existing in the market. And we're also going to be talking about an addiction that he has. It is a cooker addiction. And a number of you ventured guesses. I said, see if you could, trust me when I say this, all of you were well light on the guesses. Way more than 50, way more than 70, way more. It's going to blow your mind. So stay tuned for that. Then we'll close the show with a company that is also in the wireless remote temperature thermometer game. We've heard of the meter before. I've been one of the biggest skeptics of the meter. This company is not the meter, but it's something called the Meat Stick. And the CEO there, or the founder, Mendel Lin, will be joining us for the first time. And we're going to talk about the Meat Stick and how that all came to be, what you can expect as a potential consumer of that. And, of course, like we'll be talking about, Ben, with from a manufacturing side, what they're running into, or if they're running into any issues like that. So Stephen Reichland coming up shortly, then Ben West, then Ed Riley, and then Mendel Lin to close it out. Big show planned for you here. Love to hear from you. 216-220-0966. Greg at thebbqcentralshow.com. Don't forget you can follow me socially, Insta, Twitter, TikTok, and Snapchat at BBQ Central Show. Facebook and Twitch for video feeds, /BBQ Central Show. YouTube for an additional video feed if you would like, /RD Rempe. YouTube and Twitch also have streaming comments, and then Facebook has it as well. I see it all over here to the left-hand side of the screen, so jump in there. Know that I see everything, but I don't always react to everything, so don't worry about that. Listener feedback from the show last week and a few weeks before that. Matt Bykowski is weighing in. Hey, Greg, thank you for putting out the show for another year. I really enjoyed it. I just wanted to say thank you and have a great new year. Thank you for writing in, Matt. Tom in Virginia writing, Greg, very excited to hear from your new Third Tuesday regulars. What an addition to the lineup. That's right, in case you missed it. We are trying something new for this year on the third Tuesday in the second hour. We will have Jess Pryles recurring quarterly. We'll have Susie Bullock from Hey Grill Hey recurring quarterly. And we will also have Daniel Vaughn of Texas Monthly recurring quarterly as well. So looking forward to having that first conversation. And it'll be Susie coming up next month, and looking forward to that. Pete in Oklahoma says, Greg, I have to admit I was less than excited to hear a segment on watches. But after it was done, it was really one of the better segments in recent memory. I'm not a watch guy like you are, but the lesson in watchmaking history about here in America and the journey Vortic has been on is very interesting to me just from a potential consumer's standpoint. Thanks for changing it up and putting them on my radar. That is Pete in Oklahoma. Alexi is weighing in. Howdy, Greg. I just wanted to thank you for blocking Adam Perry Lang from your guest Hall of Fame. You made the right decision. Thank you for all of your hard work. I really appreciate the show. So we thank Alexi for writing in, of course. And last but not least, Jeff in Texas writing, Greg, I was wondering if you were going to be on the air this coming Tuesday to issue a retraction of your banning of Adam Perry Lang. I am not doing that this evening. It's been a mixed bag of reaction. I figured, I was taking some beatings as it was happening last Tuesday as we were closing the show, and then through the week. It was probably running 50-50 on folks that said, hey, you showed testicular fortitude, you stood by your convictions, good for you, blah, blah, blah. And then there were just as many that were coming in saying that I was completely off base. And what I come to find out, and disagree with me all you want, as Howard Stern would say, if everybody's agreeing with me, I'm not doing my job correctly. But it is, if you were disagreeing with me, thinking that I was saying something that I wasn't, then I would encourage you to go back and listen to my words, where I was prefacing certain things and then using the word opinion in certain areas as well. But what's the one thing we can all agree on? The Barbecue Central Show Guest Hall of Fame is my Hall of Fame, and if I want to take you in or I want to take you out, that's the way it's going to be. So if you still want to weigh in, or you're just catching up on the show, or you're just new to the show, go ahead and check that out. That was last week's show at the end. Stephen Reichlin is in the green room, and he is ready to go. I'll talk to you quickly about Primo Grills, also a new sponsor in 2021. PrimoGrill.com is the website. It's singular at the end. Primo Grill, not grills. You'll go to somewhere else. PrimoGrill.com. What do we know about ceramic cookers? Hey, we love ceramic cookers. They're really two cookers in one. You can do low and slow really well. You can also crank them up and do high heat really well. Most of them are round. And what do we know about round cookers? They don't offer you a true two-zone cooking option just because of the way they're set up. However, Primo separates itself in the fact that it's an oval shape. So you can really shovel the coals off to one side and have a non-lit side or no coal side, and then you can have a direct or coal lit side. And you have true two-zone cooking. That's a tongue twister. I might have to start all over again tonight because the words are not flowing. In any event, if you're looking for a ceramic cooker, you want something that's going to offer you true two-zone cooking, Primo is the one you're going to want to take a look at. They have an extra large. They also have an extra large Jack Daniel's edition. They have a large version and a junior if you want to take it around with you. Now, if you love the Primo brand, but you can't get over the fact of how this thing is shaped and you need a round one, good news. They also make a round one as well for those that just want to fit into the fold. They also have an extra large gas ceramic grill, if you can wrap your head around that. A lot of things to choose from over there. Here's what I suggest. Because they sell through dealers, go to PrimoGrill.com, check out where a dealer is near you, and then go in person to check them out, see what it's all about. PrimoGrill.com. We are back with Stephen Reichlin right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the #1 most downloaded barbecue and grilling podcast anywhere. The Barbecue Central Show. Broadcasting live from the Barbecue Central Show studios in Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
So we were just talking about Primo. You know what would go really good with your new Primo cooker? A barbecue guru. That's right. Creators of automatic pit temperature control technology. Also, sellers of ceramic cookers. So if you aren't on board with the Primo and you like the Barbecue Guru's version better, that's fine. A whole bunch of other accessories to make your barbecue and grilling life easier. Visit them on the web, bbqguru.com, or call them 800-288-GURU. The Barbecue Guru continues to be a breakthrough in barbecue technology. All right, Centralites, it's the third Tuesday of the month, and you know what that means, a segment visit with the icon of the industry and monthly visitor here to this show. We welcome back for the first time here in 2020, Stephen Reichlin. Hey, Stephen.
How you doing?
I am fabulous and great to have you. We wish you Happy New Year, of course, and look forward to another great year of shows. And 2020 has finally left us. A lot of people perhaps mistakenly thought as the calendar year left, magically everything was going to go back to whatever normal was before COVID, and unfortunately we're still in the midst of it. So as you look back at 2020, from a live fire trends standpoint, is there anything that sticks out to you that maybe you weren't expecting or you saw coming in the beginning of the year and it really took hold and made itself available front and center as the year wore on last year?
Well, absolutely. I mean, first of all, just we're grilling and smoking much more than we ever did before. And, they say have a captive audience. Well, we were all captive audiences. I know even tracking something like the sales of my book, Project Smoke, skyrocketed this year. I think more people have more time to do slower cooking. Some other trends that are very predictable given COVID, lockdown, social distancing, etc. We did a lot more mail ordering of meats from companies like Crowd Cow, also a prepared barbecue. We cooked a lot smaller meats. When Thanksgiving rolled around, I don't know about you all, but we normally have these enormous Thanksgivings, and this year it was just my wife and I. So we did a turkey breast, and I think a lot of people, instead of pork shoulders, maybe doing pork loins, pork tenderloins, pork chops. Small was beautiful this year. Comfort food, no surprise there either. Chili, mac and cheese, pulled pork. I mean, this year was anything but comfortable, and I think anytime we could give ourselves some comfort with our food, we did it. What else? Let's see. Well, pellet grills. I mean, that's a trend that's been building. It was very strong this last year. I think it'll get even stronger this year. But those were sort of the highlights of what I saw in 2020.
From a watching television or a Netflix standpoint, of course, in the beginning of COVID, Tiger King seems to be burned into my mind. But along with that, it seemed to follow suit with that whole sourdough revolution. Did you take part in that, or are you a baker by any stretch ever?
Well, I'm a little bit of a baker, and I think to the extent that we got into that, well, first of all, my wife is a terrific baker and pastry chef, and she did a series of Zoom French pastry classes. Wow. With the little ones in our family. And that was amazing. It was amazing because I got to eat all this incredible French pastry. Most recently, and this brings me to one of the trends for 2021, I have a wood-burning oven that I brought back from one of the sets of Primal Grill. You may remember we had some wood-burning ovens. And I started firing up the wood-burning oven, using it. It's amazing. I love how it performs. I love the flavor you get, which is related to but very different than what you get on a grill. And most recently, we did a potato bread that we cooked in the wood-burning oven, and that was nothing short of wondrous.
Stephen Reichlin joining us here on the show from BBQ Bible, of course, BBQBible.com, his website. So let's go ahead and look into 2021. Of course, we're freshly into it, and I always love to catch up with you to see what you think might be trending this year or things that we might want to be looking out for. Maybe they come to fruition, maybe they're not, but you have your finger on the pulse there. So there were 10 things that you would put on your website as barbecue and grilling trends from 2021. Let me ask you this as we lead into that. Was there anything that you thought was going to hit last year that has carried over into this list because you think that for whatever reason it didn't show up in 2020 like you thought it would, and you think maybe this will be the year, or is this a fresh new list of items to look at from a trend?
No, I think that there's a transition, from last year to this year. I think one of the trends that I jotted down is vegetables 24/7. And I think this is the year when vegetables are, grilled and smoked vegetables are going to be huge. Now, that started last year. I've got skin in the game on this one because my next book is a book called How to Grill Vegetables. It's coming out in May. So during lockdown, I was super busy writing the book and then correcting the proofs, and I'm still going over the galleys. But I think, it's a convergence of so many trends. I mean, number one, we want to eat more healthily. And I think that's all the way across the board. Even when I used to do events back when I toured in Kansas City, even places like Kansas City and Dallas, staunch meat-centric, locations, I would talk about grilling vegetables, and I might have gotten a few boos during the class, but afterwards people would come up to me, tug my sleeve, say, "Hey, that's really great. I'd like to, I want to get more grilled vegetables into my diet." A more specific manifestation of that trend is what I call vegetable charcuterie. Now, charcuterie, is basically it's cured meats. When you make prosciutto or speck, or you do salume, Italian salami and Italian sausages. Those are all cured meats. Those are called charcuterie. Well, starting last year and rolling into this year, a number of very high-profile chefs are getting into vegetable charcuterie. And if you read my blog a couple of weeks ago, you saw a beautiful picture of what looked like a ham. But if you looked at it more closely, it was actually a smoked watermelon that had been crisscrossed, the way that you would crosshatch the skin of a ham. And this is turning up more and more. And it brings me to another trend that started last year and I think is going to be really big this year too, and that is meatless proteins. Thinking of the Impossible Burger or the Beyond Burger, which is morphing into a Beyond Steak. All of which is to say, meat is not going away. In fact, I think in a funny way, we're eating less meat, but better meat. If you follow my Facebook page, you probably see me post pictures of this A5 Wagyu beef from Japan, which is so well marbled it looks like a piece of white lace laid over a red tablecloth. It's incredible stuff. It's incredibly expensive too. But while we're eating less meat and better meat, we're definitely eating more vegetables, more grilled vegetables, smoked vegetables, and more plant-based foods. And you know what? It's good for our personal health. It's good for the health of the planet.
I'm down with grilled vegetables. I want to dig into that book and how you're able to generate a whole recipe book of grilled vegetables here in a second. But let's go ahead and touch on that non-meat-based protein or plant-based protein, because I've mentioned it maybe 3 or 4 times here over the show. I think towards the end of 2018, it was really coming into vogue, and you were hearing more and more about it. It was showing up in restaurants and a lot of burger formations, and the true barbecue and grilling guys and gals took a shit all over it because it wasn't real meat, and why would you do that, and there's no way I would taste it. But I think the more people threw caution to the wind and tried it, they said, well, maybe it's not that bad, or they had issues with a bean burger 10 years ago or 15 years ago, and they're trying to assimilate to that. So the long point I'm trying to make is, with all of that considered, you're not eating meat, or maybe you do it for Meatless Monday or whatever. It's not necessarily a healthier option when you talk about processed foods. Plant-based meats are insanely processed.
Yes, that's very highly processed, particularly the Impossible Burger, which has been engineered to bleed, supposedly when you cut into it, thanks to beet juice, which I think is pretty unnecessary. But I think those burgers are pretty tasty. And,
Agreed.
If you think about a fast food burger, now I'm not talking about a glorious burger, where you are custom grinding your meat and making it an inch thick and it's really luscious. But if you think about a fast food burger, I mean, basically it's a very thin, very overcooked puck of grayish meat. And honestly, I don't think a fast food burger is any more tasty than a plant-based burger.
All right, Stephen, so let's talk about this vegetable book. I can think of grilled lettuce and grilled carrots and grilled asparagus, love mushrooms on the grill. But quickly, I would say that I'm probably starting to run out of concepts and ideas for vegetables on the grill. So what were some of your inspirations to be able to put a book together on vegetable grilling?
Well, I wrote this book as I write every book, which is basically by packing a suitcase and traveling. And in the book, I cover everything from grilled artichokes and avocados, and that's sort of a little mini boomlet, grilling and smoking avocados, to zucchini in the form of zucchini burnt ends, which use a very ingenious form of cutting and skewering, which I will disclose when the book comes out. You'll find recipes from Southeast Asia. You'll find recipes from South America. We go through all the vegetables A to Z. There's a chapter on breads and sandwiches. There's a chapter on grilled cheese, grilled eggs. It's not a vegetarian book. I do want to say that. I'd say about 10% of the recipes do have meat. You know, my premise is if meat can make a vegetable taste better, then I will add it. But I think if in the highly unlikely chance that you have a vegetarian or vegan listening to this show, they will find plenty of meatless recipes in the book. My daughter is a full-on, full-bore vegetarian. My wife would prefer to be a vegetarian and eats meat only with the greatest reluctance. So a little bit of this is self-defense. But to me, there is no better way to cook a vegetable than on the grill. That high, dry heat caramelizes the plant sugars in the plant. So you know what? If you're going to eat vegetables, you might as well know how to grill them because they're going to taste better grilling than any way else.
I'm glad you brought up the avocados because there's a chef over here in Cleveland on the near west side. He's the owner and chef of a place called Fahrenheit. He's just recently opened a place down in Charlotte as well under the same name. And one of the items that he has as a starter is grilled avocado. And then there's some goat cheese on the top of it, and then some type of a balsamic and soy glaze, and then you just kind of take it out of the shell, and then you smear it on some nice toasted bread, and it is super simple to make, right? I mean, I can make it; it's no problem. 5 minutes, and you're done. Maybe with a quick, and I'd say medium-high heat, and then it's something that makes a great presentation. But again, as Sam the cooking guy says, a lot of the time heat changes things, so it adds a new flavor to it. The grill adds its own impart of flavor as well. Then you have the goat cheese that works, so that's a little bit of sour, and then the whole Asian sauce on top. That's a great thing. So if you're not into avocado by itself, grilling it, and perhaps that goes the same as you were saying with any vegetable. Try grilling it, and maybe you become a fan of something that you're not a fan of.
Yeah, you will like it better. Well, they're grilled avocados and smoked avocados turn up throughout the book. One of my favorite dishes is a smoked avocado that you then turn into guacamole. And it's, that adding the smoke just gives it a completely new dimension. Another trend that I want to mention, especially since we're coming off on the heels of Martin Luther King Day, black chefs matter, black pitmasters matter. And I think in the coming year, there have always been great black pitmasters. The black contribution to American barbecue, which is you cannot overstate it. I mean, it was really born with black cooks on the plantations. But some very exciting books coming out this year. Rodney
Scott.
Rodney Scott is coming out with a great book. That Desiree Robinson of Cozy Corner received Barbecue Hall of Fame. Adrian Bill is coming out with a book on the history of black barbecue. So it should be a pretty interesting year.
One of the other things that you had mentioned for trends of 2021 were spice rubs you've never heard of. And, I think for as dynamic as we are, pit masters, live fire cooks, whatever you want to call us, sometimes we can get pigeonholed into using a certain number of spice rubs. And I get it. You typically go back to things that you like, and once you find some things that you don't like, maybe your ability to venture out of the box unknowingly becomes impeded. So what are you talking about when you are describing spice rubs you've never heard of?
Well, I'm thinking of one called Dukkha, which is D-U-K-K-H-A. It's an Egyptian spice rub, and you start by roasting nuts. It can be pistachio nuts, can be walnuts or combination. You add seeds like sesame seeds and pumpkin seeds. You add spices like cumin and coriander, and it makes a fantastic sprinkle on. I like to do an ember roasted sweet potato with yogurt and then sprinkle the Dukkha on top. Another one is called Panch Faran. It's a Bengali spice mix. Zatar, which has been around for a while. That's a Middle Eastern thyme and sumac and sesame rub. But I think the idea is, broadening our horizons. And America is an amazing place because we are omnivorously curious. We scour the world for new food experiences, and then we make them our own. And this has happened time and time again. You mentioned balsamic vinegar, balsamic glaze on the avocado. Well, I remember as a food writer probably 30 years ago writing about balsamic vinegar, and, it was really exotic, and it was hard to find, and nobody knew what to do with it. And, now I wouldn't be surprised if it's served at Wendy's, So we do that as a culture, and it's really wonderful. We're continually expanding our horizons.
What's mixed method grilling?
So that actually was suggested, when I was working on this list. I reached out to my Facebook followers at Stephen Reichlin on Facebook, and I had said, normally I'm traveling 4 months a year, and I'm observing these trends in restaurants and, in the field, and I've been locked down like everybody else. So what are you seeing? And I don't remember who it was, but somebody said, mentioned mixed method grilling, and that might be where you sous vide a prime rib to start, and then you smoke it, and then at the last minute you direct grill it to sear the crust. Or you might smoke vegetables and then use those smoked vegetables. I'll give you an example from the book. Okay, so it's a grilled vegetable frittata. Frittata, that upside down omelet, that Italians so love, and that's great for brunch. Well, in this instance, you start by grilling the vegetables, putting a nice char on them, giving that sweet caramel kind of sweetness. And then those are added to the frittata, which is basically an omelet mixture, to which you add cheese. Normally that'd be baked in the oven. Of course, I do it indirect grilled with a little wood smoke to, get another layer of flavor. But, that's an example of using smoking, using grilling, using indirect grilling in one dish.
You had mentioned that you had brought over a wood-burning oven from one of the shows. You have that listed as a trend here in 2021.
Yeah.
If we were under a normal circumstance, would that be in a trend, or do you think because we're still probably, at least for the first half of the year, would be similar to how we ended the year, that this is something that is going to be more of a trend because of how we are right now?
I absolutely believe this will be a trend, and it will only grow. And why is that? So, number one, our grilling sophistication. Since I wrote Barbecue Bible on How to Grill, massive numbers of Americans are grilling, not just on the weekends or special occasions, but it's part of our weekly routine, our daily routine. More and more of us have outdoor kitchens. We've gotten pretty good at grilling. We no longer own just one grill. We own a couple grills, maybe a Kamado. We own a smoker. So this is a logical extension, this wood-burning oven. And I was amazed. I went up on YouTube to kind of research some techniques on lighting the oven, using it, and I was amazed how many views some of these videos have had. And if you haven't tried it, it's really cool.
You can find Stephen Reichlin over at BBQBible.com. He is writing there and giving you recipes and insight here into the industry. And we'll track these and some of the other trends of 2021 and see if they really hit the mark here. Stephen, always appreciate the time, and thanks so much for coming on.
Well, thank you, and I don't know if people noticed, but I've got this new fancy audio rig here, courtesy of Mr. Rempe, and
you got it.
I feel very professional.
It sounded great.
Move over.
We got a lot of great instant feedback saying how great you sounded, so I appreciate you bearing with the technical setup on there, and we're going to sound like gold the rest of the way.
Beautiful. Thanks.
Right.
Grill
Thanks
on,
again,
everybody.
Stephen. There he is, Stephen Reichlin from Barbecue Bible. Sounded like $1 million. Absolutely fantastic. So we look forward to further conversations with an even better sounding Stephen Reichlin as 2021 unfolds. And check out those trends, right? Grilling vegetables 24/7. Spice rub. I've never heard of the spice rubs that he had mentioned. Zatar, I've heard of that before. Mixed method grilling, like what Darren Wilson was talking about from Fire and Water Cooking. I did a little mixed method the other night when I Indeed, sous vide more steaks against Meathead's advice. It's not where it works the best. Ben West coming up out of the break. I'll talk to you quickly about Big Papa Smokers, the one-stop online shop for all things barbecue, a curated selection of only the best outdoor cooking and grilling supplies, all curated by Sterling Big Papa Ball himself. Whether you're a backyard barbecue fanatic, competition pro, Big Papa Smokers has something for you. They have 13 perfectly balanced flavors of rubs and seasonings. Flavors like Sweet Money, Cattle Prod, Cash Cow, Regular Money, Double Secret Steak Rub. All proven winners on the competition circuit and in the backyard. Big Papa's offers 13 perfectly balanced flavors that transform ordinary meals into extraordinary. Whether you're cooking to impress the judges or the friends or the family or all of those people, Big Papa's award-winning rubs and seasonings don't disappoint. If you're looking to improve the flavor of barbecue sauce, how about Granny's barbecue sauce? They own that too. Great all by itself, or you can use it as a base sauce and tweak from there. Aside from the premium selection of rubs and sauces, Big Papa Smokers offers 13 offers the very best pellet and charcoal cookers on the market today. You're looking for a versatile smoker that's easy to use? How about the Mac 2-Star General Pellet Cooker? It's got a whole new redesign, something you're going to want to check out. Big Papa Smokers, the exclusive Mac dealer, even offering special packages. Not a fan of pellet smokers? All right. Take a look at that Old Hickory Ace BP, for crying out loud. It's the only charcoal smoker that Big Papa trusts on his competition trailer. If you're not sure of what grill you need, you can't go wrong with any grill featured at BigPapaSmokers.com. They have something for every kind of backyard cook and budget. Questions? Sure. Call them 877-828-0727. That's 877-828-0727. Or shop their website at BigPapaSmokers.com. That's BigPapaSmokers.com, BIGPOPPA Smokers.com. And we will hopefully be back with Ben West from Spark Grill, a grill that will give you a pellet experience, but with charcoal. We'll see if he comes up. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the Barbecue Central Show.
Hey, this portion of the show being brought to you by CookinPellets.com. Your number one source for quality wood pellets for all your pellet-driven cookers. Visit CookinPellets.com for more information or to purchase. You can also buy on Amazon.com as well. Fledgling internet site coming up. I would say go to CookinPellets.com first and see what they have, and then you can then search Amazon if you want. But CookinPellets.com also has not only the pellets, but they have some other accessories that you might find interesting as well. One of the big knocks on pellet cookers is the lack of big smoke, and Chris Becker has had that Amazon tube or something along those lines that you can pack full of pellets and put in your pellet cooker to give you even more smoke flavor. So all up to you. CookinPellets.com is the place to go. Hey, last week we teased the Spark Grill when Meathead stopped by for his monthly visit, and he said that Max Good was in the process of testing it. And in regards to the Spark Grill, we can certainly have him on in a few weeks once he's done pounding around with it. But why not get some insight from the mastermind behind this grill? Pellet cookers are continuing to grow in the backyard because you can literally dial in a temperature and not have to worry about it. Again, the Spark Grill, looking to accomplish perhaps the same thing, but doing it in a charcoal-based form. So let's go ahead and race to the hotline and welcome first timer to the show, the founder and CEO of Spark Grill, Ben West, joining me. Hey, Ben.
Hi, Greg. How's it going?
I am doing fabulous. Appreciate you joining me here this evening, Ben. Before we get into the Spark talk, let's go ahead and get a quick background on you professionally, where you're home based out of right now, and then we can build into the Spark talk.
Yeah, sure. Let's see. I think Spark is my second company, but all this really started with the first company. I started a company called EcoZoom. I started that company in 2011, and we made wood and charcoal cook stoves for use in developing countries. We also had a line of solar products, but primarily made wood and charcoal cook stoves for the half of the world that doesn't have access to clean cooking products and causes about 4 million deaths a year, and a lot of environmental degradation and climate change and that kind of thing. So I started EcoZoom in 2011, and we had some good success. We got into the Inc. 1000 for fastest growing privately held companies. We won a bunch of B Corp Best in the World awards. I got to live in Kenya for a couple of years with the company, and that's where I really just fell in love with cooking with wood and charcoal myself while living there. My wife and I lived in Nairobi during a somewhat stressful time, like the Westgate attacks, the Westgate Mall attack, and things like that. And so we found it was just super awesome to get out to the backcountry, and like you get to go camping with giraffes and zebras and stuff like that. And just really found that cooking with wood and charcoal, I'm sure it's no surprise for you or this audience, but it really draws people in. It just makes for really amazing food, and overall just a really awesome experience. And so I moved on from EcoZoom over time, and really didn't know what I was going to do next. I moved back to Portland, Oregon, where I'm from originally, and just really saw that there were some cool macro things going on in the space. Portland's very known for coffee, and we'd walk down the street on a weekend morning and see that some awesome new restaurant was starting using wood and charcoal like every weekend in the New York Times Food Edition. And I wanted to continue cooking that way back in Portland, but quite a different environment than being out in the backcountry in Kenya. Was just talking to friends, and started talking to chefs, and found that chefs spend a couple of years really learning how to cook well with wood and charcoal. And I didn't feel like that there was necessarily a great product to hit high temperatures, low temperatures, just a really easy way to continue cooking that way in an urban environment. And as I got into it more, I saw that I felt like there was a good opportunity. I had a really good insight at my time with EcoZoom that, this kind of like the Shangri-La there in the cook stove space is to be able to make, wood and charcoal burn super clean in these low cost cook stoves that really perform, like your stovetop oven. You put a pot on top, and the idea is zero emissions, super clean. The way to do that is really to tailor the hardware to work very tightly with the fuel source itself. So actually, I overheard you talking about pellets. Pellets are a really good way to do that. They're usually very similar, and you can really tune the hardware to work very well with them. With that insight, though, I thought I'd see if there was something that could be done with charcoal to do something similar. And I didn't know how we'd do it at the time. We made, dozens of prototypes in the years that I was working on taking this from concept to commercial product. The very first prototypes were literally made in those like big plastic milk cartons. And then first full prototype was, under counter ice, double walled stainless steel under counter ice bins like you'd find in restaurants. And then I guess, flash forward a little bit, we raised some venture capital for the company. I moved to San Francisco for a little while. It was a good experience. Like, EcoZoom had a lot of growth and a lot of success, but it was all organically grown, and it was interesting to have this whole other experience of, spending money and making mistakes and trying to grow fast. Ultimately, San Francisco wasn't totally for us. And to grow the business in a really good way, we wanted to be somewhere a little more like food oriented and production oriented. So moved to Boulder, Colorado. We have a few investors here as well. And, Boulder is really known as the Silicon Valley for food. And a lot of how we're approaching the brick is from this food perspective, seeing the as an ingredient, and really having it be, very food safe and, not transmitting anything to the food being cooked on the product. So that was, we moved here in January of last year, started scaling the company up, getting production going. And we really just started shipping the product. We distributed a few handfuls of grills in Colorado to prove, just that the product was working the way we wanted. We started shipping nationally in October, and really worked to start getting the sales engine up and going in October. And it's been off to a good start.
When you're raising the capital, like I don't know if I've had anybody on, as I was doing some research, it looked like you had started out with, maybe $9 million. There was a second round or maybe a third round of funding for almost $4 million. Is that all you? Like, do you already have these contacts? I mean, I want to go out and, talk to somebody to have them give me $4, $5, $10, $12 million, but I just don't have those contacts. So is that something you had in your back pocket and you were able to work those to get the funding? And then the follow up is, if you weren't able to secure that, would Spark Grill be more of a extinguished grill at this point?
No, I did not. I mean, I didn't have those contacts at all coming into this in the beginning. Funny, I was on our second prototype, which, was much more advanced than the under-counter ice pins at the time I raised our first money. I'd put a little bit of my wife's money into it. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay. We put a bit of our money into it. And investors had actually said that they would have funded off renderings versus being so far with prototypes. But I think it's like a lot of things, just work hard at it and, learn and grow and kind of be that fighter in the ring getting punched in the face every day. And then you can, often work your way through it. But yeah, I've developed a knack for it over the years. Being in San Francisco for about a year and a half, definitely.
All right, so I learned a lot. Kind of give us a breakdown or mental paint of how the grill looks, and I guess more importantly, how it operates.
Yeah, sure. So it's a bit of a modern design. We get a lot of positive feedback from people that it looks quite a bit different than what somebody's used to with the grill today. It's double walled, porcelain enamel, well insulated. We tried to have it be fairly minimalistic, with the goal that like every part of the grill has a purpose to it. We'll start building out, other accessories and other things for it over time. But really what it is right now is just, compound continuous corners and edges. It's, a fairly large, long oval. If you were to take something like a sphere or even like a Weber kettle and just kind of like stretch it out, that's kind of roughly how it looks.
Do you know what a PK grill looks like?
Yeah, I do.
Would you say that it's akin to that to a certain degree, as far as shape and the way it looks a little bit?
I wouldn't. No.
Okay.
We could talk about that more offline, but I wouldn't say that. Yeah.
Got it. All right. So, and this is fired on a charcoal fuel source.
Yeah, that's right. Well, so just real, on our website, sparkgrills.com, lots of goodies, or on our Instagram feed as well. But so the grill, part of the magic with it is really that tuning the hardware and the fuel to work very well together. And so we have what we call bricks that work in the grill. We're at a fairly early stage with the company. But we have a few different bricks right now, really with the goal of capturing a couple different time periods. kind of like a weeknight, 30 minutes with family. And then more of like, we have another brick that's useful for the weekend for, say, like a 4-course meal with, 5 to 8 people. We also have a brick released that's set for, being able to cook Neapolitan pizza and, really high temperatures. We're pretty close to releasing our first barbecue brick, which would, or we call it low and slow, which would be more, low 200s for, 6 to 8 hours of barbecue in the grill. Right now, it's all hardwoods. We have integrated and done proof of concept on a lot of different wood additives, wood flavors in the bricks. But those will be things that we come out with in the quarters to come.
What's the price point?
Yeah, right now we have a bundle that we have about $150 off. So it's $849 today. Normally it's $999. The grill with the starter bundle, which includes a box of bricks and temperature probes and side table and things like that.
What percentage of the market do you feel has zero interest in learning how to control charcoal? I mean, do you think they think it's hard, or they just have no interest in it and they're just looking for perhaps the better way to do it is we revert back to pellet cookers for any number of reasons. They probably grew in popularity this past year, and people saw how easy it is to dial into temperature, but you weren't able to get that. Aside from the gravity-fed master-built cooker, had a kind of a similar thermostatic control, but it wasn't necessarily the same kind of concept that you're bringing to the market. So, do you think people just don't want to mess around with charcoal, and this is just an easier way to do that?
Yeah, I mean, research we've done says that like 80% of people know that cooking with charcoal tastes better, but 70% of grill outs are with propane today. Also interesting research that 91% of people we'd say are into grilling, yet about 40% of households don't own a grill. So I think there's a lot of opportunity to get into the interest that's happening in a way that works well. I think that we really work to have a good relationship with the customer from purchase through setting up the product, through getting onboarded with the grill, and then ongoing recipes and other things like that over time as well. So today, 26% of our customers didn't previously own a grill, and so I think like there's a lot of people that are getting into the space, and I think a little help along the way is very helpful. And we're just at a very early stage still, but I think a lot of our industrial design, a lot of our branding is meant to be unintimidating and welcoming.
Meathead from AmazingRibs.com was on last week. He's a regular monthly guest, and we broached the Spark topic for a few minutes. And he said his biggest initial concern out of the box was its inability to be set up for 2-zone cooking. And, Amazing Ribs is very big on the ability to have this 2-zone. I'm kind of take it or leave it guy, or, I know up front if 2-zone availability is there or not, and I can make that buying decision right off the bat. So fire on one side, nothing on the other. Is that a big deal to the folks that you're talking to? Do they ask about, well, how would I set up 2-zone cooking, or is that a little bit more advanced for their knowledge?
Yeah, I mean, I talked about the 26% of our customers that didn't own a grill before, but 20+% of the market owns 2 or more grills. Often they own a propane grill for weeknight use, but are a bit embarrassed, or have to ask kind of 3 or 4 times before somebody admits what grill it is. And so I think we really are going after that consummate griller as well. How our grill is set up is that we have a heat spreader that comes standard with the grill, with the heat spreader under the grates, between so it's, fuel bed with the charcoal brick on the bottom, and then a heat spreader above that and grates above that. with the heat spreader in the grill, there is very even heat, but the heat spreader is removable. The fuel bed is in the middle of the grill, and so for us, I do think we have two zone, but it's not side to side. It's more kind of like center and periphery, so a bit different. But we do see good temperature variation in between one zone and the other.
You need electric, obviously. You got to plug it in. There's a fan that's driving the combustion to a certain degree.
Yeah, that's one other interesting thing as far as control goes. You can fully, there is a temperature management system in the grill where the grill will control temperature for you, but you can't override that and do fan control as the user too. So the grill, we worked really hard to actually make it have a very low power requirement. So it runs off 12 volts. And so we trialed a battery pack that sold out super fast. We're bringing that back. But yeah, there is a battery pack that we have available with the grill as well. We work super hard to make it low power and able to run off a battery pack as well as plug-in.
Let's go ahead and talk about that fuel a little bit more in depth. I can go out and buy 18 pounds of B&B charcoal briquettes for $15. On Quick Cooks, I can cut that oxygen off. I can reuse the spent ones in another cook. When I go to the Spark Grill website, you have currently the classic charcoal brick, which shows a temperature range of 500 to 700 degrees and a burn time of 90 minutes max. And that sells at a 9-pack for $30. Is that expensive? Or is that expense something that you feel the customer is willing to absorb in order to gain that convenience? Are they not necessarily aware of what traditional charcoal would cost versus what the brick costs? I mean, certainly we're not talking about the same kind of manufacturing process, but just from an economics standpoint, it would seem much cheaper to buy regular briquettes and then also have an ability to reuse, where you're probably not able to reuse the brick if you don't use it all the way through.
Yeah, you're as the system stands today, you're not able to reuse the brick. We do find that maybe 5% to 10% of people shut off oxygen in like a Weber kettle and then reignite the charcoal. It's not that common, we're finding.
You're just saying it's us nerds, is what you're saying?
I mean, I know plenty of people that of all types. I think it's just kind of a preference of maintenance and efficiency or something like that. But
cheap asses, I believe, is what we're looking for. Cheap asses, yes, that's me.
But in the work that we've done, we're pretty close on price to lump charcoal that you pick up at a hardware store. That delivered is a lot more expensive than when you go to pick it up. Our system is, pretty efficient. The double walled with insulation goes a long way. If somebody buys 2 boxes of bricks, there's a 10% discount. And we're doing more on that front over time as well. Tuning the brick in to work well with different cooking types. We get a lot of feedback right now that, what do I do if I just want 2 chicken breasts? The brick that you just mentioned is really for like 2 courses, for a family of 5. And so we have those things underway. Our research at the moment shows that we are price competitive for picking up at the hardware store, but a lot cheaper when it's delivered to the house.
Who's making the brick? Is that something that you make in Boulder, or are you getting it manufactured somewhere else and brought in?
We make that ourselves. Yeah, here in Boulder.
And I assume that is engineered to be in the sales literature. It says it's like up and running in a matter of moments. It's ready to grill on. So traditional charcoal, you're putting in a chimney, maybe using a banjo burner, a couple lighter cubes. Still, let's say 15 minutes. 20 minutes or so before you're white hot, ready to go, and it's safe. But this is done in a much quicker fashion. So how do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, I do think that the benefits of flavor offered the convenience of the ignition, of the cleanup, and the control, really do provide major differentiators over what's in the marketplace today. Yeah, think of the brick, it's the process of manufacturing it is, not dissimilar from making a cookie. And the ignition process really is that there's the brick touches this ceramic igniter that gets super hot in just a matter of seconds. That sets off ignition of the brick. And then with a bit of airflow, the rest of the brick ignites. And then, the charcoal gets going and really in about, you can be at 900 degrees in 12 minutes. Where the grills, and I'm talking great temperature as well. Nice thick, centimeter thick cast iron grates. So, the grill gets quite hot very fast. Charcoal is very energy dense, really.
Ben West joining us here on the show from Spark Grill. SparkGrills.com is the website. Ben, a lot of companies in this market experienced tremendous success last year for obvious reasons, reasons that we probably didn't think were going to be the reasons they were doing so well. But as far as putting stuff together, what I'm hearing now is we're getting a lot of sales. We're trying to meet the demand of sale by manufacturing these and getting them out, but we're also experiencing component issues and supply issues. So where are you looking at from a sales or an order intake experience? And then are you running into issues of getting parts and pieces to get these things assembled and then shipped out?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, is we manufacture the grills in Southeast Asia with a supplier that we worked a lot with pre-COVID. We can't be with them. Right now, the biggest issue for us is, getting the product in, inspecting and testing every grill to be sure it meets great standards for our customers, so that they would never know all these things that we do behind the scenes to make them, to work with them to have a great experience. That's been the biggest constraint we've had. And then, we had a big, we were really only actively selling for about 8 weeks in the end of last year, and it went quite well. And we're working to ramp up our production so that our customers don't have to, have any significant wait times to get fulfillment. And we're juggling getting orders shipped out so that people don't run out of stock as well. But that, our pinch point is really the operation keeping up with demand at this point.
Is it all online ordering? Is that the only place you can get it, or are there brick and mortar dealers?
Yeah, that's right. At the moment, everything from our website. Yeah.
Let's talk business as a last question here, Ben, and I appreciate the time. Is the goal here to produce a grill and create a brand that will survive and grow for decades to the point where perhaps Spark Grill is synonymous in the industry, much like a Weber or a Charbroil? Or perhaps is the goal to confirm that this style of grill will work in the market and then hope that a Weber or a Charbroil might knock on the door and say, hey, Ben, we love what you've done here. You've taken this great piece of technology and we buy into it 100%. What's it going to cost us in order to take this over? And they stroke you a walk-off check. What's the goal here for you?
Yeah, it's lofty. I mean, I look up to Peloton for what they've done, and I think we have quite a few similarities. In this space, no one really has a relationship with their grill brand. Somebody buys a grill, and then it's about going out and finding your own recipes. It's about having a new brand where people, I think that the opportunity to work with people and earn the right to work with them through that whole journey. Overall, a lot of it is just, working to democratize the joy of grilling. It's a great way to get outside, enjoy time with friends and family. A lot of people find it intimidating, or there's, big opportunity for improvement. Peloton's done really well with that in the exercise space. we'd love to follow suit. My goal would be a nice IPO, hopefully riding on their coattails as much as possible.
Nice. Ben West joining us here on the show. The company is Spark Grills, and go to the website, sparkgrills.com, and check it out. And if you're interested in being some of the first, go ahead and grab it up. It's on special right now. And then report back to me every time you use it so we know how you like it, and we can go from there. Ben, really appreciate you taking time this evening, letting us get to know you a little bit, and bringing us through the history of Spark Grill and where you guys are at today. Continued success. Thanks for doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thanks for having me, Greg.
You got it. There he is, Ben West from Spark Grill. How's that conversation for you? I love it. Me? I'm looking for the walk-off check. Greg, we love what you've done with this live internet show that is then a podcast after the fact. What's it going to cost us to have you walk away from this show? My number, $6.75. Cash, please. Hey, let me talk to you quickly about Southside Market and Barbecue. Established in 1882, the oldest barbecue joint in Texas, owned by the same family for 3 generations, offering premium Central Texas barbecue products, slow smoked over real wood, shipping, distributing, manufacturing sausages for companies across the U.S., from food trucks to multi-chain restaurants. Southside Sausage can be on your menu as well. All meats are processed in the on-site USDA-inspected facility, a trusted partner with a focus on quality and authenticity. They're shipping nationwide via FedEx, also through food service distribution like Sysco, U.S. Foods, and Martin Foods. Co-packaging capable from research and development to package completion. They can follow your recipe or help you develop something brand spanking new. Private label opportunities are also available. Visit SouthsideMarket.com for more information. As you're visiting, go ahead and load up that cart at SouthsideMarket.com and then use promo code BBQ Central, all one word and lowercase BBQ CENTRAL, BBQ Central, for 10% off your entire order every time you go over to SouthsideMarket.com. We're back to wrap the first hour. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Continuing to produce incredibly mediocre content in an exceptionally professional way. You're listening and watching the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
Hey, welcome back. This portion of the show being brought to you by Fireboard. Fireboard 2, Fireboard 2 Drive, Fireboard 2 Pro. Monitor up to 6 different temperatures simultaneously. Connect to Wi-Fi for cloud-based monitoring. Or connect via the red, white, and blue hoo-hoo tooths. If you have Alexa or the Google Assistant, you're in luck. Fireboard's fully integrated with both. Find out more by visiting fireboard.com or call 816-945-2232. All right, thanks again to Ben West from Spark Grills, the website sparkgrills.com, and check them out. A pellet, potentially a pellet efficient experience, but with a charcoal brick. By the way, I didn't get to ask him, but I know for a fact if you don't want to use the charcoal brick or you don't find it to be fiscally beneficial, you can use regular charcoal in there. I don't know how it would light in comparison to the brick, because that's engineered to do, get to quick 900 degrees in 12 minutes. It's pretty quick for a charcoal cooker. But you can use regular charcoal if you need to. Those are briquettes that I know. I don't know about lump. I would assume lump. That's sparkgrills.com. All right, we're way past. We'll do an abridged second hour top, and then we will get to Ed Riley from B&B. So stick around. We'll be right back.
Happy to have you aboard here for the really big barbecue show.
Boing. We cook because we have to, and we grill because we want to.
Hit me! Fine, how you doing? You have a great show. I'm a big fan.
Boing.
So what seems to be the problem here? This man looks like he's dead, and he's in the crackle.
Charbono! It's all about the Charbono, dude!
Succulent fish. What?
He ate sushi for wieners.
Oh, listen, Lavernius, shut your face.
I'm shaking like a dog shit peach seeds.
We have top men working on it right now. Top men.
All right, just like that, we are into the second hour. Welcome aboard. It's the Barbecue Central Show. And we talk about Barbecue Central Show items, the live fire fun and frivolity show here on your Tuesday evening. Still to come on this show, Ed Riley in just a few moments, and then Mendel Lynn from The Meat Stick. You can follow me socially at BBQ Central Show on Instagram and Twitter and TikTok and Snappy Snaps /BBQ Central Show on Facebook and Twitch for video feeds. Also /RD Rempe on YouTube for your third and final video feed option. Coming up on the best moments of the Barbecue Central Show in 10 minutes or less this Friday, you will find episode 160 taking you back to January 5th, 2016. And the pitmaster of then Clark Crew Barbecue, Travis Clark, was my guest. And we learned about Travis and how he got into the competition barbecue scene back in the day. You know, when you look back at how long he's done it, from a time standpoint, not that long in the biz to achieve the success that he has a couple years ago when he won Team of the Year. I think we would all agree, for those that follow the circuit over the course of the last 10, 15 years, there wasn't any other team who had experienced the type of success that he had, who was winning the type of competitions that he was winning and maximizing and blowing out the points the way that he was doing it. There was nobody better on the competition scene a good 2 or 3 years running. And 2 of those 3 years, he won Team of the Year. So we learned about how he got into the competition scene. The biggest revelation of that whole conversation was the year that he was winning the Team of the Year. He was also talking about his self-inflicted pains of his own inconsistencies. And when you talk about competition barbecuers, the refrain that you hear back from them, beginning and middle and professional grizzled vet, is you have to be consistent. You have to run the same program. And through that previous year, he was buying Snake River Farms briskets for one competition, and he was buying like Sam's Club briskets for the next competition. He was buying something completely different for that. There was no consistency in the brisket. And while he was top 10 or higher in ribs and chicken and pork, he was 115th, or he was 100 plus for results in the brisket category. And as he started to look back on it, said, well, I was my own worst enemy there. I was inconsistent in that category, and this is why. And he fixed it and eventually won out and won Team of the Year, and he has those titles to prove it. Full link in the show notes when you get to it on Friday. And let me remind you that if you have a favorite segment or guest that you would like to hear a best of from, email John, Jon, at thebbqcentralshow.com, and he will take care of you. Or do his best attempt. I'll get to Bubba's from Georgia's email next week. Well, looky here, serendipitous. I'll talk to you quickly about B&B Charcoal before we bring on the guy from B&B Charcoal. Not all charcoal is created equal. First and foremost, charcoal is a heat source. You want to look for the most efficient way to cook outdoors. Second is the taste and appearance benefit the charcoal can give your food. Third is the health and safety considerations for you and your equipment. The 2 main types of charcoal are obviously lump and briquette. The key differences between lump and briquette is the charcoal briquette is that lump is 100% natural wood. Briquettes are made of wood byproducts and additives. Quality comes from the quality ingredients. Fuel is the last ingredient, but it is the first taste that you perceive when eating. Choosing the right fuel source makes all the difference. It's very important to use best quality charcoal when you cook because it is both a heat source and a flavor source. And as you know, you have the options, the charcoal lump and the charcoal briquette. I would say if you're going to do overnight or you want consistent long burn times, briquette is your item. If you want something with a little higher heat, lump charcoal. Less ash production. Maybe you're not worried about cooking for hours and hours on end. I would say lump is the way to go. Bottom line is this: both fuels have the advantage and the disadvantage. Both can be used to make great food. The call is up to you. There is no right or wrong answer. Fuel source truly depends on you as the cook. Always be sure to buy the highest quality products from a brand you can trust like B&B Charcoal. And you can check out where to buy them when you visit bbcharcoal.com. I would suggest your local Ace to start with. bbcharcoal.com, and Ed Riley is ready to go as well. Stick around. We'll be right back for some pellet talk.
Monthly visits from a killer hog, a cooking guy, a man named Meathead, the author of Barbecue Bible, a grill girl, a bristly barbecue journalist, and the malfeasance of the barbecue world known as the embedded correspondents. Only found right here on the Barbecue Central Show.
All right, welcome back. This portion of the show being brought to you by Pit Barrel Cooker. Most unbelievable outdoor cooking device on the planet. Currently available in 2 sizes with a host of accessories, whether you're a beginner or professional. Definitely a cooker you want to add to the arsenal. Visit pitbarrelcooker.com and tell them the Barbecue Central Show sent you. My first guest in the second hour is the Director of Sales and Marketing over at B&B Charcoal, leading manufacturer of charcoal products on the market today and one of the newest sponsors of this show. He was on near the end of 2020 to rave reviews. We got the history of the company. We talked about briquettes. We talked about lump. Tonight, we will touch on their other product called wood pellets. Are you familiar with that? Of course you are. We race back to the hotline and welcome back Ed Riley to the show. Hey, Ed.
Hey, Greg. How are you, sir?
I am absolutely fabulous. Appreciate you joining me here this evening so we can talk a little bit more B&B product. And then towards the end, we'll talk about, I guess, what I would term a raging addiction. Some might call it a large curation. We'll call it whatever you want to call it, and we'll get into that here in just a few minutes. But let's go ahead and talk about some other fuel sources that B&B has to offer. Last time you were on, as I had mentioned in the open, we talked about briquettes, and we talked about lump. Lump being that main flagship product, and then briquettes grew out of that. Charlogs grew out of that. One of the cookers that have become incredibly popular, I mean, they've been around since the mid-'80s, so if you're a nerd like me, you've certainly been aware of them for quite a period of time. But to the general ham and egger out there that continues to grow their cooking arsenal, pellet cookers have really come into vogue. They've become very popular for any number of reasons, and obviously you need wood pellets to fire those. And B&B has pellet options. So let's go ahead and talk about where the pellets are for B&B and what yours look like compared to some of the other ones.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Pellets are definitely a legitimate source of outdoor cooking. I enjoy my pellet grill. I've got an old Traeger and a newer Recteq. So they come in a lot of varieties. B&B's been making pellets, I think, for about nearly 9 years, almost 10 years. The difference, just like with everything B&B does, is we make ours a little bit different. So we make a wood chip and chunk that's part of the barbecue fuels that we have. And then after we get done processing the chips and chunks, we clean those remnants out, the smaller scraps, those pieces of wood, and that's what we use to make our pellets from. So our apple pellets are made with our apple wood. We do mix the fruit woods a little bit because the fruit woods need a little more BTU, so we mix everything that's a fruit wood with our oak. And then our oak and hickory and mesquite are standalone, but then our apple, cherry, maple, missing one. It'll come to me. I should put that list in front of me. But the fruit woods are mixed with it's a 70-30 mix with our oak and our fruit woods. The difference in that is a lot of other pellet manufacturers, they source their wood from industrial scrap wood. So it might be leftover pieces of furniture, pieces of bed frames, and that type of stuff, and then they compress that and they add flavor oils. We don't do that. Our wood is from our own source, and our source is hand-selected. When our apple wood comes in, we have a guy who inspects the wood that comes in before it's kiln dried, and they accept wood or they don't accept wood. which gives us a higher quality control on the wood that we start off with. And then within one season, that wood is compressed into our pellets. We don't have to use a whole lot of binder agents. A lot of people use corn or rice binders. We use very little binder because there's still sap left in that wood. So when that pellet is compressed, some of the natural saps form the casing on that. We do use some cornstarch binder in it, but not much. And that makes a difference because if you have a lot of binding agent in it, you leave your pellets out at night, they're going to absorb moisture. Mine's going to absorb less moisture because there's less binder in it. There's more natural resins in there. When there's resins, those saps are more water resistant. So your pellets won't expand. I know if I've left my pellet outside for too long, and then when I go into the hopper, all those pellets have expanded and turned to dust, basically. That's before I started using B&B. The B&B pellets are going to last longer in an outside environment, and that's going to save your hopper and your auger systems. So at the end of the day, you get a better wood with ours, so it's going to burn hotter because the BTU is going to be higher. You're going to have better flavor because we don't add flavor oils, and there's less ash and less waste.
Is there a term in the business called is it lignin or linen that's like naturally occurring?
So those your naturally occurring the wood fibers have a membrane, a cellulose membrane. You'll have more of that in mine because mine's a fresher wood, or we use fresher ingredients. If you have a piece of wood, and it could be hardwood, but if you have a piece of hardwood that's 2 or 3 years old, maybe it's a piece of furniture that's scrapped out, that I'm probably saying it wrong, but that you said it correctly. Those cellulose membranes have dried out, so there's less of that in older wood. Our wood is less than a year old by the time it probably hits the pellets, so you have more of that in ours, and that's going to give you the distinctive smoke flavors. Your apple wood comes from the cellulose membranes in the apple. We're going to have more of that in mine. Your hickory, your maple, your cherry, all that's going to come from those lignins. I wish I could speak science, but that's the word. But yeah, there's 3 different membranes that are in plants basically, and the fresher the wood, the more of those flavors you have.
Is B&B have their own manufacturing plant? Like these are pellets that you are making specifically, or are you outsourcing to some other manufacturer?
We're outsourcing. We didn't put our own pellet plant in, so what we're using another pellet plant facilities, but it's we ship our truckloads of our dust, basically, with the splinters and the small fibers to the plant, and they produce it. It's almost like back in the day, Samuel Adams was being made at Budweiser plants, right? So after they get done with the Budweiser, Samuel Adams brings their own proprietary recipe blend in, and it's made at those things. I don't know if they still do that or not, but that was back in the day how they did it, and that's what we do. So instead of buying our own pellet manufacturing, we are using another person's, but it's our blend, if that makes any sense. It's all raw ingredients that goes into our pellets.
Has there been talk ever? I mean, I would assume that the continued popularity of pellet cookers is going to grow through this year, and I would imagine it would continue to grow through the next 5-10 years. Is it something that B&B would look into putting in like a pellet, their own pellet thing?
This past year has been crazy busy for all people in the barbecue world. There's been a lot of capital investments that we have done to put back into our business. I see all aspects of barbecue continuing to grow. I think people are staying home more, so I think people have more time to spend, outdoor cooking, and that's going to include pellet. I don't think we're putting our own pellet plant in, just because financially I think we're focusing on our charcoal and our lump. That's our main thing. And I think there's a lot of environmental concerns too. To put a new plant in, there's a lot of government regulations involved with that because there is pollution, I guess, and carbon footprints and stuff. So I think at this time, we're not putting our own plant in. I know other people have, but I think we are it's more financially. And I don't work that high up in the office to know this stuff for sure, but I don't think we are looking at putting our own pellet plant in. So we'll continue to have somebody else make our pellets for us, using our raw material.
So we're in 2021 now. I would assume there was some type of a year-end meeting for you guys, and then you are obviously, all sales guys have to put together that dreaded forecast to look out into 2021. So, just roughly, what percentage of sales were wood pellets for you compared to lump and briquettes? Was it even 5% or 10% versus the traditional stuff?
So we're not that big of a company. We don't have. I know just what I've sold, so I can kind of just spitball it. But we're kind of. I mean, it's like I call to the CEO, and I hadn't. We don't have those high level discussions. He just tells me,
sell more.
What's your marketing budget? Here's your sales goals? Yeah, it's like if there's a dozen employees at B&B, that might be an overstretch. So we're not that big. So we should have those meetings. But we hadn't. But I do know our pellet versus our charcoal. Our charcoal is probably 80%, and that's all forms of charcoal. And then, I think the woods are probably, I guess maybe it's 30% from what I can see. So maybe it's 75-25. Let's say our woods and the pellets fall under the wood category. So we have log splits, we have chunks, chips, and then our pellets are probably part of that 25%. If you want to look overall sales.
From an accessibility standpoint on the pellets, are they fairly easy to find, or is it a similar process where maybe you would want to go into an Ace if you don't see them, then start striking up that conversation with the store manager and saying, hey, look at the warehouse near you and start bringing them in for me?
Ace has got 2 of our pellets. They're tied in with Traeger right now pretty tight. So Ace carries our championship blend, which is our post oak, cherry, and pecan combination, and they carry our Jack Daniels. Our Jack Daniels is made from the charcoal, basically, that from the Jack Daniels plant in Lynchburg, where we actually take the charcoal. And that's an important thing to remember when people cook with, I think we talked about this last time or touched on it, when you cook with pellets, you're getting a raw smoke flavor. A lot of people miss that charcoal flavor, the traditional smoky, when the fat hits the wood and you get that smell coming back out. You don't get that so much with the pellets.
Yep.
And so we partnered with Jack Daniels, and we actually used their charcoal from the char, the char that they use from inside their barrels. We use that in our charcoal pellets. So I recommend using a cup of that for every pound of regular smoke pellets that you have. So the 2 that you get at Ace are our Jack Daniels charcoal pellets and our championship blend. The other pellets are right now available pretty much Academy. Academy carries all our pellets. We get 7 flavors of pellets. You could buy them there, and I guess a few places sell them online. One of the most popular ones that people like is our post oak. We actually have a post oak pellet. And the reason why that's so popular is because a lot of pellets smokers, they do longer cooks, like your briskets. And in the brisket world, that post oak flavor is really a Texas style, and that's what people are looking for, is that post oak smell. And I think we're the only one that make a post oak pellet. And there's a few places online that sell it. It's just the shipping that 20 pounds of pellets shipped is going to cost you as much as the bag of pellets. But I think our pellets sell for $11, and I think the shipping, you can probably get some shipping for about $11, $12 or something like that. If you go online, look on our bbcharcoal.com, you'll see a few stores in Texas. They're the ones who be carrying it, and you can contact them directly and work out something if they want it.
From a charcoal standpoint, before we broach into the next subject, Ed, where are we at as we get into the new year from a inventory level? Last time we talked, it was really kind of chasing around to make sure that everybody was getting what they were looking for. Supply and demand was at a premium. Still the same kind of thing 6-7 weeks later?
I just talked to them today. The char logs are the only things that maybe have a 30-day. And so if somebody's interested in putting an order in, give me a call. But we're up to speed with our briquettes. I'd say about 2 or 3 weeks for the briquettes, but that's kind of normal. But we've got lump, all our flavors of lump. We've got our hickory lump, our mesquite lump, and our oak lump, and then the briquettes. So get your orders in for the briquettes. We're happy to help folks with that. And those are for the independent stores, or even Ace stores. Ace, people can call us up directly or contact us directly, and we can get those out. But the char logs, and the reason why is because the way our process works, we start with the oak lump. The smaller pieces of that oak lump that don't make into the bag, that's what we make our briquettes with. And then the smaller pieces of that we make our char logs with. So our char logs are a third step process, and those are probably 30 days out. But our lump and our briquettes, we're catching up.
All right, so that sounds good. So if you're
you.
interested, then go ahead and visit Ace or check out the website and see where you can get it at. So let's go ahead and switch gears here for a second, Ed. And a lot of us suffer from this disease called MCS, or multiple cooker syndrome. If you look back out in my patio, I have a Weber gas grill, I have 2 Green Mountain pellet cookers, I have a Traeger, I have a Lang offset. I might have had a pair of Weber Smoky Mountains as well, but they might have been gifted, and the list kind of went on and on. A lot more people have a lot more grills and cookers in their backyard than that. You seem to have taken it to a completely different level. So I don't know if you have a rough count, or because you knew that this was going to be a portion of the interview, if you went, took a couple weeks to count and get a true definitive head count. What's your current cooker count?
So first, a disclaimer: the multiple cooking syndrome is not a bad thing. It's a good thing.
Totally.
I mean, most people, if you walk into your kitchen, you have multiple ways of cooking. You got a toaster, a microwave, an oven, a stove. You got a variety of things to cook on. I think your deck needs that too. I think your deck needs ceramic. It needs a pellet. It needs a gas. There's nothing wrong with having a charcoal or two for different things. So, not a bad thing, I think. And your outdoor kitchen should kind of reflect your indoor kitchen. I mean, if you go to contests, you'll see these people having multiple different appliances to cook different things. They cook the chicken on this, the brisket on that, and that's a good thing. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not trying to dodge your question, but the
is it no preface needed in this neighborhood? You're good to go.
I started collecting vintage grills. That's the key. Vintage. These are older grills, and I think it was 2015 that I entered the Guinness Book of World Records at 750 grills. That was a few years ago. I've added a few since then. But so I'm keeping my wife out of this a little bit, but I probably about 850 grills now.
Wow,
so,
look at you. Holy moly.
So that was, and most of these are, like I said, they're vintage. They're, some of them I do use, but right now, the primary thing, my wife actually cooks more than I do, so she cooks on a gas grill, but I do like the charcoal grills better. And I'm looking forward to, right now they're all in storage. I've got them in a variety of different places. Some of them were in a museum in Atlanta for a while, and they're being packed up, and hopefully they're going to Alabama for another museum exhibit there. Plus only about 40 or 50 of them in that exhibit. But there was a point in time that you could buy these things for nothing, like 10, 15, 20 bucks a piece. I just bought one the other day at a St. Croix. It's probably 150 years old, and it's an old, kind of a cast iron looking, they call it a coal pot, but it's a grill basically. And it was off an old sugar plantation that was built in the 1750s. This one doesn't go that old, but it's a cast iron one that's pitted and used. And you can imagine how many special events, how many steaks, how many bellies were filled with food that's cooked off this grill. So those are ones that, and it was off an auction, there was like $50 or something. And, but it's just, what were they going to do with it if they didn't sell it? They'd probably scrap it or something. Sure. So something like that just has some historic value to it. And those are the type of things I collect mainly. It's just older ones, things that have some history to them, and definitely unique ones. I've got some old, like I worked for Weber for about 20 years, so that's really what started it. Right. And I've got some old, like 1950, I say it's a flat top Weber top. I've got 2 of those. So those are before Weber domed the top, and they probably started doming the top in 53. So these are 52s, maybe 51, 52s, somewhere in there. So that's the type of stuff I collect.
Do you have a ballpark value on the collection in total? I mean, certainly I'm sure some of this stuff is way more valuable to you personally because of the story behind it or how you acquired it, things like this. But do you have a general retail number on that?
Yes. For insurance, I did insure a collection. When you have a collection, you got to kind of estimate, and I estimated it about $100,000 worth. I didn't spend that on it, but that's just some of the things that have gone up in value. Like some of the early Weber grills I bought for $20 or $30 are selling now for $3,000 or $4,000. So they've got some value added to them. But as any historical item, it's how do you gauge it if there's only two of them out there? Some of the grills I have are the only ones of them out there. So you can only kind of say, well, I was just, before I talked to you, I was looking online. Some movie house rents these things out. There's, 5 or 6 of the grills they rent out, I own, and they rent them out for, $1,000 a week or something like that. So I can kind of estimate what my value is worth based on something like that. But somewhere around that. But that's of course, that's just, and with any antique, it's just whatever the market bears on that one. There's no real market value for some of the stuff at the time, but so that's what I put the insurance policy at.
Well, it used to be Ted Reeder, the king of all grills here on this show, but easily usurped by the one and only Ed Riley of B&B Charcoal. Ed, appreciate you coming on tonight and hipping us to the pellet part of the business and giving us an inventory status of the briquettes and the lump, and then talking to us about the grill collection that you're currently curating. Always appreciate the time. Thanks so much for doing it.
Well, thanks for having me on again, Greg. We appreciate it, and just let us know next time you ever want to talk about anything barbecue. I love talking to you guys.
I will do it. There he is, Ed Riley, right there, owning all the grills in the world. In case you missed it, 850 at rough count. Wowee, that's a lot. Ted Reeder, I think at one point said he had 100. Maybe a little more than 100 and so many. Not 850. That's for sure. I wonder if my connection is not working well. Oh, there he is. Mendel is in the green room, ready to come on here. I'm going to talk to you quickly about Green Mountain Grills, some of the best pellet cookers out there on the market today, and then we'll talk the meat stick. Green Mountain Grills has 2 lines to choose from, as I tell you each and every week, a choice line and then a prime line. If you want the tech, if you want the internal meat probes, you want the peek-in windows on the main cooking chamber and the pellet hopper, you want Wi-Fi capability, you want to be able to adjust temperature and look at everything on your mobile app, you need the Prime line or Prime Plus. Prime Plus gets you the lights inside as well and the fold-down front table. Prime line, a fixed front table, but you have the connectivities I had mentioned. If you want to save a couple bucks, fine. Get the choice line, perfectly fine. It's the same size as the Prime lines, just a little bit different tech. Well, no tech for the choice. But it's a great cooking vessel. Either the Jim Bowie or the Daniel Boone will also house the pizza oven insert, regardless of line. That's something you're going to want to get. And then for mobile opportunity, Davy Crockett plugs right into your 12-volt outlet in the car. It's got battery clamps if you want to bring a car battery along with you, or you just plug it in wherever you can get AC at. You're not sacrificing a tremendous amount of capacity for portability either with the Davy Crockett, so check it out. Only sold through dealers. So go to greenmountaingrills.com, find the nearest dealer near you, and then go see it in person. Learn from the dealer, let them educate you, and you have success right when you get home. The meat stick. We'll learn all about it in just a few minutes. Stick around. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the #1 most downloaded barbecue and grilling podcast anywhere. The Barbecue Central Show. Celebrating over 10 years of prolific and unparalleled live fire barbecue and grilling talk. And yes, it's still being done from Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show.
And this portion being brought to you by Smithfield. Smokin', S-M-O-K-I-N, SmokinWithSmithfield.com is the place to go. Find out about their Committed Cooks program. Still trying to lock down Laura Paul for the reveal of the Smithfield Grant program for competitions this year and the ones that were going to get it last year. But, of course, that didn't work out too well because of coronavirus. You can also visit smithfield.com as well. Smithfield with us for 2021. Or to help me close the show tonight is a company that is looking to change the thermometer world with their wireless offering. For years, thermometers have wires, and that has been the norm. But over the past few years, we've been seeing more and more wireless options coming to market. So let's go ahead and learn about something called the Meat Stick with the one and only Mendel Lin. And we race to the hotline. Hey, Mendel.
Hi, Greg. How are you today?
I am fabulous. Appreciate you joining me this evening, or where you are probably towards noon or something like that, as you are joining us from the
Yes.
great city of Taiwan, ladies and gentlemen, if you can believe it. And I'm not kidding, by the way. That's for real. We'll get into that here in a second. Before we get into talking about the Meat Stick, Mendel, a little background on you professionally and, where you lived originally and how you made your way over to where you're at right now.
So I was actually a lawyer many years ago, and I got dragged into the IoT space, developing smart home and technologies involved with that. I'm actually from California, and I actually still live in LA. I'm just over here, as some people like to call it, as a quarantine refugee, staying away from what's happening, in the States right now.
So were you there because maybe you vacation, or you just had like a rental property over there, or like, when I'm thinking about getting away, Taiwan isn't like the first thing that comes to. I mean, nowhere comes to mind except maybe Australia, because I've heard they've been doing it right. But why Taiwan?
So our production is all in Taiwan. So I was actually doing a trip a couple months ago to come back and check on it for pretty much before the holiday seasons. I was supposed to be back in the States with the family for Christmas, but things got very bad, obviously, in LA during that time. So decided, at least for now, to prolong it here in Taiwan a bit longer to see how things clear up.
So outside of trying to sell a wireless thermometer product into the live fire market, are you somebody that just generally likes barbecue and grilling food? And if so, what's your favorite stuff to get after?
So for me, I actually I love ribs, and the way we actually got into even thinking about this technology was I normally host an annual pool party for my friends, some family, and whatnot. And I'm always cooking, and something I realized about cooking is when you're cooking for 20, 30, 40 guests, you're constantly occupied preparing the food. So for me, over time, I realized I'm always doing this. A day goes, or an event goes by, and you're like, all right, who did I talk to? What happened? I served them great food. Everyone had a great time. That was my goal. But at the same time, I'm always trying to figure out ways to, make things easier for all of us. So this is why I was in the smart home, tech originally. We developed some technology with regards to trying to automating lights and things like that. Right before all these other players were in the space. One of the big things was just being in bed and making sure all the lights in your house are turned off. Something so simple as that.
Mendel Lin joining us here on the show. The website, by the way, is themeatstick.com, and you can check it out while we're talking if you're not familiar with it. So it does appear that wireless thermometers are the future of remote temperature monitoring, if you will. The first one that jumps to mind, and it has been for years, is this meter, and that seems to have like the most, I don't know if brand recognition or just general recognition as far as wireless ones are concerned. But now you have Meat Stick and a few other ones that are coming to market here recently. Were you inspired by the meter or some other competing product, and you said, hey, conceptually nice, but I can execute much better?
So actually, our prototyping was when we were just playing with the idea. That's when we found out about Meter originally, and they had their Kickstarter. Definitely, I'll admit, there probably was developing the technology before we were. But they helped validate our idea because we were working on some other technology at the time as well. So as we were already prototyping it, we decided to put more effort into it to really develop it out.
How quickly are you able to go from whatever that initial prototype looked at to a finished product you could bring to market?
Well, we were trying to get our product actually to the market before Meter, simply put, and we almost were able to do that. Honestly, this technology is a lot more complicated than it seems. It's one thing to create a prototype, and it's another thing to mass manufacture it. So I understand the issues and why they potentially took many years to get the product to market.
I just figured they wanted to raise multi-million dollars and then get the hell out of town. It seemed like a scam to me.
Yeah, that's what everyone seemed. I mean, looking at their timeline and their prototypes that I don't know if did they really even show how it worked back then. I'm not even sure. But
I think it was very rudimentary.
No one knew what was happening. Yeah. But what I can say is we got our Wi-Fi version onto the market before they did. Their blocks released a year and a half later from when we released our Wi-Fi bridge. We definitely approached the situation completely differently than they did.
All right, so for the folks that aren't familiar with it or can't wrap their head around what we're talking about mentally, can you paint a picture for us as far as what it looks like and how it actually operates?
Oh, for sure. So let me see. I have one right here. It's pretty much the wireless meat thermometer on a charging block. And the idea of it is you take it out and you stick it into a piece of meat. So over here, I actually have my nice, trusty little fake piece of meat.
Yes.
And then you just stick it right on it. Right. And while it's inside, it's monitoring the internal temperatures of your meat. And there's a handle outside which can measure the ambient sensor in whatever oven, grill that it's in.
So pretty straightforward stuff. When you're putting it in, do you have to make sure that the let's say the stainless part is all the way in the meat to make sure that you're getting an accurate internal and that it's not somehow conflicting with the external portion of it?
So most definitely. So there's actually two reasons why we require the customer to actually stick it in completely into the meat. The first one is just high heat degrades electrical components. Simply put, the less wear it has to your 400-degree oven, your 400-degree grill, 500 degrees, the better the electronics will survive in the long run. So that's the first one. The second one is really also the temperature accuracy. When it's exposed, for example, it's exposed outside of it, because these thermometers aren't as thin as the typical wired ones or instant reads. There's a lot more heat that's able to go into it and transfer inside, which will give it a less accurate reading.
So let's talk about the gauge of that thing. The thing that the biggest complaint that I hear, aside from not being able to get more than 6 inches away without it starting to fuck up royally, is I'm not real keen on the size of hole that it leaves in the meat. Some people don't really care about it, but other people seem to bring it up. I would assume that it's a bigger gauge because there's obviously more technology that's packed into that than you would have a wired probe.
That's completely correct. For a typical wired probe, it's pretty much two wires going down the probe with a sensor at the very bottom of the probe. However, because all the electronics are based within the probe itself, or a meat stick, there literally is electronic components and pieces inside, and there's of course the rechargeable battery inside as well that needs to be protected. All of that can only get so thin. Obviously, we're trying to make it thinner, but it's it is hard to do, to stuff all that technology inside.
Is there a smaller version of that? If you were, I'm just throwing something out because it seems to make sense. But if you're going to do like a Cornish game hen, maybe that thing would pierce all the way through the breast, and so you don't need something that large. You just shit out of luck, or do you have other options?
So we were actually releasing our new mini soon. It is a lot smaller. Comparing in size, what we were able to do is bring the put in a smaller battery. The big issue is it doesn't last as long, but it's also thinner. It's 5.5 millimeters versus 6 millimeters, I think it was, of the meat stick. We call this the mini. And so with this, we like to say it's for, the typical cook. You're cooking anything, any small cuts of meat. The larger one, the meat stick, is really for what I like to call, traditional American barbecue, large cuts of meat, brisket, even your ribs, really cooking anything that you would need to cook for an extremely long time.
All right, so let's talk about options or models, if there's anything other than just the meat stick and the mini, and then, of course, price points.
Of course. So we released the original meat stick back in, it was like 3 years ago, I guess. And we got a lot of feedback really quickly saying what was the problem with it. The biggest problem was the range. So we actually had 2 versions during that time. It was our original meat stick and our Wi-Fi bridge set. What we knew is people did want that Wi-Fi access to the meat stick in order to, really watch their temperatures from anywhere, especially when you're cooking a brisket for, 16 hours up to 24 hours, depending on, those extreme barbecuers. So that's what we were aiming for. One thing we realized really quickly is people wanted more range. We, after our initial release, we really looked at what can we do to extend that range. With the way our technology works, we were quickly able to create pretty much a Bluetooth repeater, and we were able to get that on market relatively quickly as well. So that became our best-selling product. It encompasses majority of people with range concerns. And it was at a cheaper price point.
How many can you run at one time?
So what we actually recommend is you could run up to 8 at a time. What's different about our technology, our Bluetooth technology, versus our competitors, is really we don't use traditional Bluetooth pairing. What we use instead is something called a Bluetooth beacon. And the main difference of that is in traditional Bluetooth pairing, you're connecting, and as you know, with wireless earbuds, you're connecting to one phone and they talk to each other. There are pros and cons of both, but the problem with that is it limits the range, it uses more batteries, and you're limited by the number you can connect to. So instead, what we've done is we've created this beacon format where it's really just letting any device that has the capability to read that signal just to be aware of what that temperature is. So by doing it that way, you could have 8 sticks, and you could read all of them from your phone, or if you have our Wi-Fi bridge unit, it would be able to listen to that. And what's really cool about this technology is, our competitors also are able to have this Bluetooth repeater, right? For ours, all you need is one repeating device to repeat up to 8 sticks.
And the repeater is different than the Wi-Fi bridge?
Yes. So right now, we've actually included the repeater within the charger itself. So we have the meat stick and what we call the meat stick X. And the X is for extended range.
Okay.
So just with this one charger, this charger unit, right now you see it's flashing green. It's letting you know it's the range extending is active, and it will extend the range of any probes nearby up to 260 feet away.
Is that clear line of sight, or regardless of wall or what have you?
That is clear. That is clear line of sight.
Okay. So what about the?
As I like to say, go for it.
No. Go ahead.
So what I like to say with the 260 feet is it really, if you're in your backyard, usually it's able to get into at least through one wall, right? If you're in your living room, you're pretty much good. Obviously, if you want to go into the bathroom or farther back, it might be able to reach that far, but it's definitely hard to guarantee depending on the home. However, if you're cooking within the home itself in your kitchen with the oven, it usually gives a good enough range for the entire home, unless you have a giant mansion, of course.
I do not, so we don't have to worry about that. So my overriding thought is Bluetooth really just kind of sucks most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Your distance or range is going to be Wi-Fi. The thing that I have, as I had mentioned before when we were testing, is the Fireboard, which is not a wireless option. It is completely wired. But out of the box, mega simple to set up. Hooks right up to my local area network or router, whatever you want to call it. The app is very simple to get up and running. And I can go to the grocery store or Tennessee and immediately look and see what's on my grill and how it's tracking and all that stuff. Is there some kind of disconnect with the wireless side of this, and where it doesn't seem to just be meshing up as well, or is your Wi-Fi capability just as easy as the Fireboard, for instance?
I would like to say it's just as easy to a certain extent. Obviously, when you're dealing with wireless technology, there is always that potential issue with connections, but generally it works pretty seamlessly. One thing the wired option that does have over wireless is really the refresh rate. And what that means is just how quickly the temperature can be updated. Once it's wired in, it's measuring the temperature or pulling the sensor every 0.1 seconds or whatnot. So it's able to pull that temperature really quickly and get that over to you very quickly. With the wireless version, ours also pulled very quickly, but the problem is the transmission, the receiving time, that every step adds a few milliseconds. So you're getting that temperature maybe 1 or 2 seconds later.
Is that something that you can is that something that you can improve upon, or just the nature of that business, it's always going to be a little bit, it will have a little bit more latency on it?
It really is just the nature of the business. One thing I could say is with the traditional pairing, it does run a little bit quicker. The latency is a bit better with regards to that. However, from what we've been seeing with majority of cooks, unless you're trying to get exactly precise measurements, it's really not necessary.
Right.
Even if you're searing something, that 1-2 seconds does not make much of a difference. And as you grow to use it, you also get accustomed to the data that it's feeding you.
Did you? What were the price points on those again?
So our original meat stick is $70. The meat sticks X is $100 or $69.99, $99.99, and then we have our Wi-Fi bridge set, which includes our Wi-Fi bridge unit, a carrying case, one meat stick set, and an extra probe, and that's for $199.99.
What's the cost of a replacement probe? Let's say I got careless with it, or man, I don't know why things just stop working for whatever reason. But it's a pretty cost or non-cost factor for a wired one. It's $15, and away you go. I would imagine are you just buying another probe at $60 or $70 to replace it then?
So we actually sell individual probes at $55. What I didn't mention earlier is we actually have 4 different colored probes. So the colored probes tell you 2 things really. One, it tells you an easy identifier physically when you're seeing it. Is it red, yellow, green, or black? But also in the app, it's identified as that as well. What we do is we print it on the ceramic, so it's the color is always there. As opposed to using, I know some people, they use a silicone ring that might burn if you're trying to sear with it, or just, it's exposed to heat, turns black, which has more issues with that.
Is there a warranty on the items?
So we have a 1-year warranty that encompasses all our products. I will admit there's always a chance of our quality control is good, but it's still not at the place where it's 100% perfect. One thing I could say is because the electronics being fit inside, small stainless steel probes is very difficult to do. So even though our initial testing is fine, there are always chances of something happening and causing issues. So we do have a 1-year warranty with regards to that, because most of the issues are potentially in that first step. One limitation of that is obviously if you're exceeding the maximum temperatures or you're inserting the sticks wrong, that would void warranty. And unfortunately, we do get that here and then. People are literally, I will say, they're literally sticking the stick in like this and cooking with it. We have a lot of instructions. Sadly, there is that learning curve as well, because people are used to an instant read. We try to warn them, to try to get them to understand how to use it properly. The sensor isn't at the tip, it's in the center. They think it's, at the tip. And so they would insert it with just the tip in, and they pretty much fry all the electronics, and they're wondering why it doesn't work anymore.
Right.
We would love to replace it, but at the same time, we're still trying. I'll admit, we're as a small company, we're still trying to figure out, customer service and what's being lenient and what's being not. From what I've seen, usually if they're nice about it, we usually replace it for free for the first time. But there are a lot of people that get really angry saying it's not very clear. And just FYI, in our app, we literally have a section where we need them to say, caution, do not do this. Click here to say that you've read this. And we try to make it very clear, but, people still don't read.
Yes, totally.
Or even, yeah. So we're trying to figure that out a bit.
The old customer service line, we'll replace as a one-time courtesy, is a phrase that you guys should put in the old CSR manuals, no doubt. I had asked Ben West this, the guy that created Spark Grill. I don't know if you're familiar with those or not, but I'll ask you the same question. Considering, there are companies that start out with a intended end game. For you guys at the Meat Stick, is this a brand that you're starting and looking to evolve 5 and 10 and 15 years from now? So the wireless temperature monitoring game is synonymous with Meat Stick, or are you looking to ramp it up and prove this concept and then hope that maybe Weber or Charbroil might come to you and say, hey, Mendel, we have a big fat checkbook here, and what's your walk-off number? We would like to take it over at this point.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely hard to say, right? If someone's coming with me with,
not
$1 billion,
for me. I want the money. I always want the money.
But honestly, creating this technology and the different companies coming to us right now with just being really excited for this technology and the applications of it, not just for the barbecue world, even just different facets of the restaurants, even some temperature measurement companies are coming to us, food storage. There's so much opportunity here right now, besides just barbecue and just cooking out. That really just see what happens.
A lot of upside, and
right.
We're talking with Mendel Lin. You can check them out over at themeatstick.com. And I appreciate you coming on here for you this afternoon and giving us a little history on yourself and the Meat Stick and what it has to bring to the market. We wish you continued success, and we'll talk to you again soon.
All right, sounds good. Thank you. Thanks for having me, Greg. I really appreciate being here.
My pleasure. Thanks for coming on and chatting it up. There he is, Mendel from the Meat Stick. That's right. So be sure to check them out over at themeatstick.com. I know Dan saying as the battery power goes down, the signal gets unreliable. Well, I would imagine. If that's the power and you're losing the power, reliability might be at a premium, as they say. All right, let's go ahead and start to finish it up here, folks. Since 1983, all the way. Remember 1983? I was 9. Pits and Spits was established. That's right. Smokers and Grills made right down there in Houston, Texas, establishing itself as one of the premier brands in high-quality offset smokers and more recently pellet cookers. Pits and Spit setting self apart by using heavy 7 and 10 gauge stainless in every cooker, fully welded construction that you can feel when you use the unit, and 304 stainless roll top lids and front shelves on every single smoker. So why does it matter? Well, by using higher quality materials, Pits and Spit smokers reach and maintain temperatures, allowing you to worry more about the meat than the heat. By providing a fully welded smoker, you don't have to worry about grease or smoke leaking out of the barrel, or about grills rattling apart as you move them through the backyard. By using 304 stainless, you're getting an heirloom quality product that you can pass down to your kids. Now, where some companies are focused on being the low-cost provider in the segment, Pits and Spit focuses on craftsmanship and quality materials. Are there cheaper ways to make these things? Yes, but they don't like tack welds. They don't like cheap stainless and electronics that you just can't trust. Having in-house manufacturing gives them complete control over the design and standards. Not something you find with stuff brought in from overseas. Their steel suppliers supply material to be used in some of the harshest environments around, so you know they're going to perform in any and all conditions, like right here in Cleveland, or the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, or North Dakota, or Wyoming. Their controllers, by the way, are made right here in the States, giving them unimpeded transparency into the programming. Pits and Spits has a dealer network across the country. If there isn't one close to you, feel free to give them a call at 844-650-6250. Ask for Coy, and he'll help you out. Tell him I sent you. Whether you're a backyard grill master or competition cooking team, Pits and Spits is a product for you. You can check them out, and all of their products on the website, pitsandspits.com, all spelled out. Or you can see their pits in the wild across social media with their handle at Pits and Spits. Once again, all spelled out. Here's a fun fact from Navy Walrus that I'm going to flash right now. Did you know India has the highest rate of open defecation in the world? Why would I know that? I didn't. Fun fact here on the Barbecue Central Show. By the way, I have no way of corroborating that. So, Navy Walrus, provide your quality links and due diligence. Once again, that segment brought to you by Pits and Spits, and we're back to wrap the show right after this. Stick around, we'll be right back.
Whole packers, full racks, legs and thighs, injecting butts. If you've never heard this before, you might think you found the best XXX show ever. Let's get back to the most homoerotic host out there today, Greg Rempe.
And this portion brought to you by Vortic Watch. You see it right there on the split screen. A small batch custom watch manufacturing and vintage restoration company located in Boulder. They take it's Fort Collins, Colorado, by the way. They take antique American pocket watches, turn them into wristwatches like this. Their mission, preserve and enhance the legacy of manufacturing excellence in America. In order to do that, they combine traditional and cutting-edge technology to create unique quality, functional timepieces with exceptional value. Here's the cool part. Each Vortic watch, unique, one of a kind. Vortic founded on the motto that America wasn't assembled, it was built. And you can check them out at vorticwatches.com. They already had the watch for the week up, and guess what? If you weren't quick, it's sold. Like, quickly. I got that email, man, that thing was gonzo. $3,200 today. That was on the cheap entry-level side. Cheap. That was on the entry-level side. We don't like to say cheap in the world of sales. At least I don't. It's got a negative connotation. We want to build value here, folks. That's what we do in this game. We build value. All right, let's go ahead and get the hell out of here all the way back in the first hour. We had Stephen Reichlin on from BBQBible.com. We looked back at what was hot in 2020, and we looked ahead to what he thinks will be hot in 2021. He's also got a new grilling vegetables book coming out in April or May, I believe he said. Then we talked with Ben West from Spark Grill. It's a charcoal powered with a thermostatic control. Got some background on him and how the cooker works and what they're looking to do with it. He's looking to go big like Peloton, but with a grill. That's aggressive. I like it. Also, in the second hour, we found Ed Riley. We talked about wood pellets from B&B. So there's another manufacturer who is making their recipe with their with their products, their raw materials of making their pellets from the B&B resin. And then we also talked about the fact that he has 850 grills under lock and key, ranging somewhere in the neighborhood of a total value of $100,000+. Like, I can't imagine. You get to 30 grills, and my wife would be like, what the fuck are you doing? That's 30 grills out there. Well, I got bad news, honey. I'm going to go get 820 more.
What?
I said 820 more. What the hell you are? Good for you, Ed. We close it out with Mendel Lin from The Meat Stick. He's in Taiwan in a COVID reprieve because they haven't had a positive COVID case in like 250 days or whatever, so they're doing something right over there. And they have manufacturing over there, so we learned about the Meat Stick and the Mini, the regular one, and their Wi-Fi connectivity and their Bluetooth connectivity, starting at around $70 and going up from there. I think it's got to be Wi-Fi. Everything else is BS. Get me Wi-Fi, get me reliability with the Wi-Fi, and somebody's going to win big with that when it becomes easy and reliable to use, and maybe that's the one. We'll see. TheMeatStick.com is the website. Big show planned for you next week. It's the 4th Tuesday, so we have the embedded correspondents. Derek Riches will be in for the first time as well. We're going to start gearing up for American Idol 2021, or whatever I'm going to call it this year. We'll start making those inroads as well. Jam-packed show. Hit me up during the week at BBQ Central Show on all the social medias, or a email is fine too, greg@thebbqcentralshow.com. September 11th, 2001. I will never forget. Until next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, this is your program host and proud U.S. American, Greg Rempe. Good night now.